So, so there's a difference between mark and avoiding someone, and then marking someone and inclining off. Okay. I mean, let me give you some insight. So on this, so this is in Job 32. So these three men, right, that were trying to help, trying to quote unquote help Job, but and then they were just accusing him, right? They didn't they didn't answer Job. They didn't give Job any help at all. So this is Job 32 verse 1. This is Elihu speaking. So these three men ceased to answer Job because as in, he was righteous in his own eyes. Then was kindled his wrath of Elihu the son of Barashio the Buzitite, of the kindred of Ram, like, against Job was his wrath kindled because he justified himself rather than God, right? Because what Job was doing, he was wallowing in his sin, and he was justifying himself rather than God. Also against his three friends was his wrath kindled because they had found no answer, and yet had condemned Job. So when they were trying to quote unquote help him, right? They just condemned him. They weren't helping him at all. They were trying to, but they weren't doing it properly. They condemned Job, right? And then when Elihu had waited till Job had spoken, because they were elder than he knew who was above him, right? He understood the rules of review, right? Because he had three witnesses ready, but they didn't do it properly, so he had to step up. When Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, then his wrath was kindled, and Elihu the son of Bashio the Bezatite answered and said, I am young, and ye are very old. Wherefore I was afraid, and durst not shew you my opinion. Um, shew you my opinion. I said they should not speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. But there is a spirit in man, and he in the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding. Great men are not always wise, then do the age understand judgment? So let no one despise your youth, right? The sons and daughters are going to teach the mothers and fathers, right? Wherefore I said, hearken to me, I will also shew mine opinion. Behold, I waited for your words, I gave ear to your reasons, which is he searched out what to say, right? Because he searched out the way to justify himself, right? But because he obviously didn't answer properly what Eli was asking Job, right? Yeah, I attend unto you, and behold, there was none of you that convinced Job, right? Or that answered his words. Yeah, the three men didn't answer him. Least ye should say, we have found out wisdom, right? God trusted him down, not man. Now he had not directed his words against me, neither will I answer him with your speeches. They were amazed, they answered no more, they left off speaking. I'm not sure if they accepted correction, right? I hope they repented though, those three guys. Oh no, yeah, and they did. But I hope they endured to the end. And it says, when I had waited, for they spoke not, but stood still and answered no more. I said, I'll answer also my part. I'll shew my opinion, for I am full of matter of the spirit within me, and restrains me. Behold, my belly is as wine, which had no vent. It is ready to burst like new bottles. I will speak that I may be refreshed, right? Because what he's about to do is save the soul from death, right? He's fulfilling James 5. He fulfilled the royal law, the refreshing. Let me not, I pray you, accept any man's persons, right? Let me give flattering words unto, neither let me give flattering words unto man, for I know not to give flattering titles, and so doing, my maker would soon take me away, right? Wherefore, Job, I pray thee, hear my words and speeches, and hearken to all my words, right? So when Eli was saying that, right, because obviously Job was wallowing in sin, he's obviously sin, he wasn't doing something right, right? But if you go to verse 1, just because God called him perfect, it doesn't mean that he can never sin. No. The devil wanted to make Job curse God to his face, but Job endured that, and he didn't. But when Jehovah sent Elihu to correct him, and after that, Job came to himself and edified that even more, he accepted correction, right? Because if you go to Job 33, right, verse 31 to 33, mark well, O Job, hearken unto me, hold thy peace, and I will speak. If thou hast anything to say, answer me, for I desire to justify thee. If not, hearken unto me, hold thy peace, and I shall teach thee wisdom. Right? So if you go to that, I'm going to go to Psalms. So this is Psalms 37, verse 34 to 37. Wait on the Lord and keep his way. What is way? Ten Commandments. And he shall exalt thee to inherit the earth. Right? So who are the ones that are going to inherit the earth? The meek. This is the Beatitudes. When the wicked are cut off, thou shalt see it. I've seen the wicked in great power, and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. Yeah, I sought him, but he could not be found. Mark the perfect man, right? And behold the upright, for the end of that man is peace. What did Elihu say to Job, right? He said, hold thy peace, right? He said, mark well, O Job. Yeah, he marked him, right? But he didn't mark and avoid him, because Job was, yes, he was like walling in sin, he was talking back a bit, right? But because he had pride, right, and he was doing rebellion, which is witchcraft. So that's why, and he's justifying himself, he was doing all these things. He had that heart posture like it was no different than a Christian, right? Because what do these people say? One of the reasons why Job is being rebuked because he said, "I'm clean without transgression. I'm innocent. Neither is there iniquity in me." Clearly, there was, right? So that's one of the reasons why he's being rebuked because he thought like he can't do nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with him. But clearly, he's being rebuked, so he is doing something wrong, right? What did the Christians say? No, Jesus is God. I can't be. What I'm saying is not wrong. I can't be wrong. No, and when they get rebuked, they don't accept correction, right? But what did Job do? He did accept correction. So that's the difference between Job and the Christian church. Yes, he may have got attacked with that heart posture, right? He may have got attacked. So in that moment, he had that heart posture for a little bit until he actually accepted the correction, because he was just justifying himself, right? So when people are in sin, what do they tend to do? They tend to justify themselves. That's what they're doing. But Job accepted correction. So consider my servant Job. Consider what he did. He accepted correction when he was rebuked by Elihu. So what did Elihu do? He marked the perfect man, right? And he behold the upright, right? So mark and incline onto those people that has that humble and contrite heart like Job. Because in Psalms 37, it goes into the Beatitude and then talks about mark the perfect man, right? And behold the upright. For the end of that man is peace. What did Elihu say to Job? Hold thy peace. Right? Because what did Elihu say? For my desire is to justify thee. What is our heart's desire supposed to be? That all Israel be saved, which is Job. He desired that he should be saved. Because that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to save his brother that's in error, right? Because obviously he's trying to fill the role on, he's trying to help him, right? So you got to do what Elihu did. Mark the perfect man, right? So those people that actually have a humble and contrite heart, mark that person too. But incline unto them and treat them as a brother, fulfill their own law. Save that person from hell and death fire. But those people that don't listen, don't accept correction, and have shitty heart posture, that don't want to listen and accept correction, mark and avoid that person. So that's the differences. So this is Job 34, 35 to 37. It says, Job has spoken without knowledge, and his words were without wisdom. My desire is that Job may be tried unto the end because of his answers for wicked men, right? Because in Septuagint, he says like, for he spoke foolishly, right? Because he spoke foolishly. He's just saying a bunch of foolish things he should have said. For he added rebellion onto his sin. He clapped his hands among us and multiplied his words against God. So he was rebelling against God. And do we add sin unto sin that grace may abound? God forbid. Right? So he did despite unto the spirit of grace, right? Because it says that do we add grace or sin unto sin that grace may abound? God forbid, right? So it's talking about those that do despite unto the spirit of grace, like Hebrews 10. And he did the same thing too. But he repented, right? But even though he did witchcraft, right? We are all called to take these people out of this by giving them a refreshing, like trying to help them get out of their sin, right? Because even though he was doing witchcraft and he was rebelling after Jehovah, saying foolish things and speaking without knowledge of Jehovah, guess what? Even though if you're doing with all those things, you can still be saved, right? Because what did it say? My desire is that Job may be tried to the end. So I desire that Job may endure to the end, right? Because if you go to First Peter, which is quoting it, right? It says in First Peter 13, right? Um, yes, and also I'll read the other one there. It says, wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, so not prideful, right? But Job was being rebuked for being prideful, right? So and it says, be sober, so not prideful, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought onto you. There it goes talking about grace. Onto you at the revelation of Yeshua, as obedient children, not fashioning yourself according to the former lust of your ignorance, but as he which hath called you is holy, so be holy in all matter of conversation. Right? But in Job, he didn't in his conversation, he wasn't being holy in all matter of his conversation, which is his speech, right? And your speech is supposed to be seen with salt, right? So you have to do that as well, because he was wallowing in sin. His speech was defiling himself, right? Because what comes out of your heart defiles you, right? So he's defiling himself. And if you go back, if you go back to Job, was it like 42? Yeah, 42. No, actually, no, it was 40. Yeah, Job 40. This is what Jehovah said to Job. Then answered the Lord and unto Job out of the whirlwind and said, gird up thy loins like a man, and I will demand of thee and declare unto thee. Right? So gird up your loins like a man. I will demand of thee and declare unto thee. What did Peter say? What did First Peter say? Let me go there again. It says, wherefore gird up your loins, be sober, so not prideful. So Job, you always said the same thing to Job. So you always saying to not be prideful. So he's obviously being rebuked for being prideful, right? Because it says, gird up thy loins like a man. I'll demand of thee and declare thou unto me. And what did Job say? What did Job say to what did Elihu say to Job? Mark well, Job, O Job, hearken unto me, hold thy speak, and hold thy peace, and I will speak. For if thou hast any to say, answer me. Yeah, because he demands it of me, right? For I just justified to desire thee, right? So was Jehovah, right? Because he says, and declare unto me. Yeah. Yeah, declare unto me, because I desire to justify you. If not, hearken unto me. Hold thy peace, and I'll teach thee wisdom. What did Jehovah do? He did the same thing to Job. Because after when Elihu was done rebuking Job, Jehovah just took over right away, and then just edify what Elihu just said. But like the difference between Job and the rest of this Christian church, right? And that these people that don't want to repent. Obviously, there's lost sheep that have the humble contrite. They're actually going to repent. The lost sheep are going to, those that hear his voice and do the things he says. Yeah, they have a humble and contrite heart, just like Job, right? So what did David do? He accepted correction when Jehovah came to him and rebuked him. He accepted correction, right? What did Job do? I mean, what did Job do? When Jehovah came to him, he got rebuked by Jehovah, right? What did David got rebuked by, was it Samuel or Nathan, right? So he had a prophet or a servant to rebuke him, then he also did himself, right? Same thing that's based happen here. So and it links into the Beatitudes, right? So what Job offered unto Jehovah was that worthy and humble and contrite heart, because he accepted the correction. You think if he was like had like the shittiest heart condition, he had a hard heart like stone, he wouldn't have repented? No. He actually listened to that grace eventually. Like because like while he's being rebuked, he listened to that grace. Because yes, he was doing this by unto the spirit of grace, but he listened to correction, right? So when it says mark the perfect man, right? And behold the upright. Mark the perfect man. Yeah, mark that perfect man, right? Or like and it says like and uphold the upright, right? So mark the upright and uphold them, right? Mark the upright and uphold them, incline unto them, help them. Don't mark and avoid. Mark them, uphold them, and incline unto them, help them. Because what did Elihu do to Job? He did the same thing. He covered a multitude of sins and saved a brother from death and hellfire. So that's what you got to do. So if you're a lost sheep, you're gonna hear Jehovah's voice, because when it says mark well, it's also quoting like Psalms 48, right? Which links into which quoting Isaiah 58:12, right? It says mark ye well, right? And after it goes in talking about the repairs of the breach. Yeah, Elihu was like that too. He repaired the breach. He repaired some things that needed to be rebuked. He covered a multitude of sins. Covering a multitude of sins is repairing the breach, because you're fulfilling the royal law. So that's what you got to go do. You have to fulfill the royal law like Elihu. Know who's above you in the Lord. Understand the rules of rebuke, right? And if it were to, for example, in a situation when it comes to an elder, he had like 2 or 3 witnesses, and then he held his peace, he was patient, and then he obviously just rebuked because obviously Job is wrong. And let no one despise your youth. Yes, you may be young, even young in the faith, but it's the spirit that's within you that teaches you and understands how to understand things. So it's your obedience, keeping the 6 commandments. So yeah, mark the perfect man, uphold the upright, incline unto them. But for the wicked that wants to stay wicked, mark and avoid that person. That's the difference between marking people. You mark and avoid the person that's always not listening. And then for the person that does listen, you mark and incline these people. For example, some brothers and sisters, they might send me a live or a brother this person, right? And they say, oh, help this person. Can you maybe help this person do this way? Yeah. You gave me this stuff. Yeah, you mark them and say, oh, help this person. Incline onto them. And that's what you do. But the question is, are you going to fulfill the royal law? Are you going to give everything you have for the people? You got to be very wise in how you speak and how you say. Be slow to speak, but quick to listen. So fulfill the royal law, right? But before you do that, take the Matthew 7 log out of your eye so you can go take the speck out of your brother's eye, right? You get it by keeping the Ten Commandments, right? And getting rid of whatever sin you did by keeping the Ten Commandments, like no Easter, right? No pagan holidays. Stop using the name of Baal. Jesus is Baal. Stop using that name. Besides, is Yeshua. God's name is Jehovah, right? Like you got to get rid of all these sins. Pray Psalms 19. And start keeping the Ten Commandments and being clean. And when you learn things, teach others to do so, or else you're evil.